Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning, it's a great pleasure to be able to wish all of you a very happy Deepavali. On behalf of Team News First, it's a great pleasure to be able to do that. And also today, on behalf of Team News First, it's a great pleasure to be able to say good luck and thank you to Rangana Herat as he plays his last match for Sri Lanka. Now then, there is apparent to all of us anyway, there is a requirement for less politicians and greater statesmen. That's the requirement apparently that's emerging from this current crisis. The UNP have had a rally, the SLFP have had a rally, the JVP have had a rally. Why? We wonder why. Let's find out. We've got with us this morning Mr. Keerthi Tennakoon. Very good morning to you.
Very
Keerthi.
good morning to you, Faraz, and happy Deepavali for everyone who's watching Newsline here.
Now then, what's with all these rallies? An UNP rally, SLFP rally, JVP rally?
For us, I mean, basically, the people, the political parties, politicians love to show the country, show the world that the people are with them. I mean, the legitimate way of showing that the people are with them, people love them, people fond of them, is to have elections. Election is the legitimate way of showing how popular these political parties are, how the policies and practice implementation is appealing to the people. But here, very unfortunately, from January 8, we have less and less elections. And we had the parliamentary election, which was mandatory, and then we got the local council election, and the election commission and the election monitors had to fight almost 2.5 years to get that local elections. It was not given by the government. And now, for 14 months, the provincial council elections are delayed. 6 out of 9 provinces are operated with the government officials and the governors. This is not democracy. There's no way the political parties can show that the people are with them. So for that, to show the world that their supporters, their card holders are with them, the UNP has to get these people to Kolpiti, and then JVP has to get their supporters to Nugegoda, and yesterday we saw the climax of that, getting a very big number of people down there to Sri Jawatanapura Kotte.
Now then, you mentioned one word there which has caught my eye, which is implementation. Now, you know, Keerthi, today is Deepavali, and my thoughts are with all these people who've been waiting for housing. They are not only the people in the former conflict areas, there are people from the tsunami who are still waiting.
Definitely, yes.
Right? Then there are those people, the mainly Muslim people who are now in Puttlam, who were given 24 hours notice to leave with basically what they carried on their selves to leave Manam. They're still there. The government, successive administrations have absolutely done nothing. What has happened? You keep in touch, I know, with these things. What's happened in the north, in the former conflict areas?
I think one touching thing during the presidential election campaigning period, I could remember the candidate Maithripala Sirisena went all the way to northern part, and he went to a camp down there, and he entered the kitchen, and he opened a plot of rice down there, and that was imaged. That shocking, very terrible. I mean, the image was telecast by, I think, almost every television channel, and it was making, that image was making headlines and the next day newspapers. I mean, last year, group of young journalists visited this same camp, and that family is still living at that particular camp without a house. So this is the real tragedy. And we were talking about the political prisoners, the people who detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
Yes.
There are more, somewhere around 40 people still still serves as political prisoners or the PTA.
You mean they're being held
under
under the PTA
Prevention of Terrorism
without
Act.
any charges?
Yeah. So when the campaign took place in the north and the east, the politicians promised them the people who don't charged under the charged legally will be released. That particular promise do not happen. And we were talking about Lalit, Kugan, disappearances, all that scenarios and incidents well known to us, but the justice has not done. So this is the tragedy here.
But you know, Keerthi, there are several events. Like I mentioned before, the tsunami people who are still waiting for housing, the people in the
Umaoya people are waiting for housing.
Umaoya,
and
exactly.
The Koslanda landslide victims
right.
still don't have the permanent housing
right.
down there.
The people from Putlam, the people in the former conflict areas. These are all real events that have happened. Now you get foreign visitors, dignitaries, call them what you may. They come here, they go to the north, and you know, a troop of people are put forward and they cry and they make a big noise, and these guys are there. In my view, they're there for the exposure, because can't they see what I'm seeing, that there is no housing? The most basic thing is missing. And where is their concern for that? Okay, well, they said they weren't allowed to go there during the Rajapaksa years. Fine. Now they
3.5 years are gone.
Yeah, now 3.5 years have gone. They're still arguing about plastic homes, iron homes, prefab homes, bricks and mortar homes, God knows what homes.
Yeah.
Why can't they start and get it going? These people, I mean, do you get any pleasure from seeing these children in threadbare clothes?
Yeah, that's right.
Bare feet.
Kilinochi, the conditions have not changed.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. When it comes to the housing, we know during the Rajapaksa time, even though we have criticized them in a huge way in relation to relocation and all that, they managed to build some houses. But here, 3.5 years, the Indian government has given money. The people, there are carpenters, there are people who can do this work, there are resources, the cement blocks, and all these things are available there. Human resources are available there. And here, the most important thing, everyone agrees that Sajith Premadasa, in his housing project, he delivered. We can see that he is delivering throughout the country. And this project was not given to Sajith Premadasa, who was capable of doing it. Yeah. And we were talking about tenders for 3.5 years. So this has done any justice to these people. And continuously we saw that the violations of the constitution coming in a various way, and the president himself was making allegations against various officials, politicians for that matter. I don't think he has done what it's necessary to overcome those issues, Faraz, in the same time.
Well, and there's another thing which we have just forgotten for a second, but we don't forget it for too long. It's the state of the estate or the plantation workers. You know, there are 1 or 2 companies that do it, but they were not long ago celebrating 150 years of tea in Sri Lanka. But I didn't hear any of these operators of the plantations, you know, the main plantation company people. I'd like to know what they're doing. I mean, the time is now around 7:12 in the morning. Can you cast your mind to some of the line houses out there. It's wet, it's misty, and there's a whole lot of smoke in these line houses. Because not one family, but generations live inside that. Father, grandfather, father, and the grandson probably live in there.
Faraz, I am coming from a hill country. I am lived with these people. I day to day in my life for my early age. I have seen these people horribly working, still paid less than 1,000 rupees down there, and their struggle is to get 1,000 rupees as the daily wage.
I agree with some of the counter. One of the counter arguments about the money is that the production costs are so high. But that's because they don't have enough supply.
This is where it comes to the management. That's why we elect a government to address these issues. The productivity factor and what is the way forward, innovation, intervention for that matter, it is not coming. We were talking, we try to sell some of our assets in a way, and we try to overcome these issues. But here, for the plantation, as much as the north and the east suffers, as much as the Monoragala and Anuradhapura, Polonnaru is suffering, the hill country, up country, plantation sector, whether it's hill country or the down south, it's suffering. Everyone is suffering. It is not delivered to the people. So that's where the question marks comes.
Indeed, indeed. And in between all that, we can't even seem to get together a proper government. Now, Keerthi, I want to take you back as we come into the halfway mark. It's 7:13 now. I want to ask you this. There's all this international concern about what's happening in Sri Lanka. That it's unconstitutional, as it's this, blah, 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 blah. But these very people are silent on the issue of the postponement or the non-holding of the elections in the provincial councils. You know, it's a little bit too much to stomach when I hear in the seat of democracy, in Westminster, in the House of Commons, when they talk about all this, they're sort of deaf and blind about the provincial councils.
Faraz, let me put it in a very diplomatic way here. For last 14 months, we saw continuous violation of the constitution coming from both president and prime minister together. Yeah. Number one, 20th amendment was given the hearing by the Supreme Court and said if the amendments to the Provincial Council Act is to take place, they should go for the referendum. And that particular advice from the Supreme Court was not heard, and they tried to manipulate it from the back door, getting amendments to the constitution, the Provincial Council Act, which is totally legal, against the constitution. The way the speaker and the president and the prime minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at that time behaved is, I mean, the biggest issues for last 14 years. Then they deliberately postponed the elections, provincial council elections. No one has talked about, except very recently, the German ambassador here is the one who raised his voice against not holding the elections. We haven't seen any of them. It was election monitors and the election commission was the two parties continuously raised their voices against this. Then the delimitation report came. They were deliberately trying to delay the process, but finally they gave it on time, on the day it was given to them. Then this delimitation report, according to the constitution, it has to be submitted to the parliament is a given period of time. That particular given period time was passed, twice passed, but the speaker and the parliament did not take any action to present it to the parliament. Finally, the protest mounted, and then only it was submitted to the parliament. Now the delimitation review committee is going on. 2 months has passed. There's no report whatsoever. Only delimitation review committee has met twice. So all this process, what I am saying, for last 14 years, the constitution is violated by the president and Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, then the prime minister. No one took it very seriously. And at the climax of that, now the president had made a bold decision and he has taken this decision. I am not 100% with the decision of removal of Ranil Wickremesinghe, but here the consequence of the way he did it and all that, but here it is a process. We are at the climax of that particular process.
I think it needs to be tested as President Sirisena quite rightly and quite justly said yesterday, that if there is a problem, if anybody believes otherwise, the correct forum is the Supreme Court.
Definitely.
And that's where you need to go. You don't go to the Attorney General and drag that man into this whole thing. Because that man isn't, as he says in his letter, it would be inappropriate for him.
Faraz, during after the 1978 constitutional reform, constitutional amendments, a new constitution, which is experienced now. Various presidents has exercised their proclamation, the exercise under the section 70 and 71. This is, no one has challenged it so far, and this is the first time on an ethical basis it is questioned. Yesterday we saw Nagananda Kodithu. It was Nagananda Kodithu who went down there. I salute him, and it was given a decision by the Supreme Court. Everyone knew that under the executive powers, this is A-level political science.
Now then, as you know, Keerthi, we invite people on Newsline to send in your questions by SMS 0772 300 305, and we've got some here. I just thought I'll take this because it's a bit relevant to what we're saying. It says, by the way, Fair Mustafa, I think they mean Faisal Mustafa, is again the minister in charge of elections in the new government, in the sense that he's in charge of provincial
16
council.
letters. 16
What
letters
do you
to go,
all
Faisal, president, prime minister, and at least now the president, Faisal Mustafa, everyone, Minister Faisal Mustafa, everyone has to respond. And this present Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was continuously talking about delaying of elections. Now they should.
Now he's in the driving seat.
He is in the driving seat. The President, Prime Minister, and Faisal Mustafa, you have to take a stand. You have to hold the elections. This is not democracy.
So Mustafa will have to stop if he is playing any games. He'll have to stop.
This is the time they have to show the world their words are in action. Everyone can say anything, and but what we need is action. And it's the right time. The President, Prime Minister, and Minister Faisal Mustafa go for the elections. And that's the way to check the people's pulse.
Do you feel, Keerthi, that the time is right to have elections anyway for parliamentary elections? You think the time is right?
First priority, go for the provincial council elections.
Right.
If we are talking about the universal franchise, and if we are boasting about the first Asian country who has the universal franchise and all that, so this is due for almost 14 months now. So 6 out of 9 provincial councils are administrated by government officials. If there's no people's representation, we cannot call it democracy. So first hold that elections, then thereafter you can talk about whatever it is. And for us, one thing we missed here is that when we are answering that particular question you put to me before that, is what will happen if Haru Jayasuriya is offered this particular position, and if he accepted the position. In Sajid Premadas is offered, the President said that. Will that same protest come on? In a way, it is now happening.
Yes, I posed that question, whether all this is because
of Mahinda
Rajapaksa.
Rajapaksa. I mean, there are two ways of answering that particular question. On an ethical basis, I think the president should try. It is better if he manage to find another suitable man or a parliamentarian.
But he was upfront and open. He said
there are 223 people except Ranil Wickremesinghe and Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Right.
And he has tested with two. I know that with some of the group of UNPs try to get a third man. So and
do we know who that was?
A politician from the Owo province was also invited to be the prime minister.
Why can't you just say the name?
There were two people. One is Nimal Siripada Silva. The other one is Ranjit Madhuma Bandara.
Right.
This was discussed during weeks before the no confidence motion against Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Yes, but you know, like quite rightly one of our viewers is saying, that all these interpretations can cause confusion. Quite right. And that's why President Sirisena says that if you don't believe, somebody doesn't believe it, or believes otherwise, they should have gone, or they can even now, go to the Supreme Court. It bothers me that the Speaker has taken leave of his senses almost, and written to the Attorney General. Why? It's in black and white. As you said, an A-level student will understand this. That is not the route for constitutional matters. Why is Karuja Surya playing games with all this?
Some says, I mean, he could be the next common candidate, by the way.
Right.
The way he had put yesterday's letter. I mean, it's very appealing to the international community. It's very appealing to the people like me who was doing NGOs here, who was dealing with the Colombo 7 people. But here, we are having a different course of action, different ways of looking to that matter. It's legally, yes, you have to go to the Supreme Court, not to the Attorney General.
Now, Keerthi, as you go about your day, you're likely to be asked about this latest letter that Karuja Surya sent, saying that he will only recognize the previous lot. There is no provision in the Constitution.
In doing the Constitution to do that. But here, to fair to the Speaker, I think the President should call the Parliament early as possible, and they should prove, the President himself and Mahinda Rajapaksa, the Prime Minister himself, has to prove that they are having the majority in the Parliament, or otherwise act accordingly.
But operationally, that's possible, because when they turn up in Parliament, all Ranil and the others need to do is to present a vote of no confidence.
Definitely, yes.
But it doesn't happen in 10 minutes. It'll take about a month, actually.
But here, that's the general procedure.
That's the procedure, and that's the procedure that needs to be followed. Isn't it?
Definitely, yes.
But what do you? How is the world perceiving? Is it really true in your various analyses that you've and people that you talk to? Is it true, or is it just little sticks that they're doing this and saying no GSP, no this, no that? What is it?
I mean, I think everyone, the international community and the Colombo people, was shocked the way, the speedity of the action which took place. Still, they cannot recover.
So does that mean now? Yes, the earlier on Patigada, the other guest said, I forgot his name, but he said that the president was inexperienced.
I don't agree. I saw the most shrewd politician I have ever seen in my life after J.R. Jayawardena. He has making a decision. The way he makes that decision is right or wrong. It's a different story. We can interpret it in so many different ways. But I think he's making decisions. But here he was talking a lot. This is the time the president should come up and deliver. He was giving various excuses for 3.5 years. Let's take one by one. He was talking about the political prisoners, the PTA detainees. Only all 40 plus PTA detainees are still down there. Number two, on 2014 December 26th or some day close to that. He was the Maithripala Sirisena and Ranil Wickremesinghe was meeting the Colombo business community, and they said there won't be any political victimization under my regime, and he was talking about expropriation bill including Hilton Hotel.
That's right.
Is that justice has done? I don't think so. We don't see that. Right now, what is happening with
they're trying to just sell it off very quickly under the table.
Under the table. So we know there was some bids were made on Hilton, and they try to sell it under the table for half of the price.
That's right.
So I mean, the president now has
So
to
that's
show
why-
the country
but that's why
that
the
he is
president-
he's transparent,
Yeah.
right? Let's sell the Hilton. If the government decide to sell the Hilton, yes,
Well,
do it on open market.
but the government has no business to be in business.
Business, that's
they,
right.
They must set the stage up for and facilitate entrepreneurship and for the businessmen to do the business.
The biggest allegation under to the previous Ranil Wickremesinghe plus Maithripala Sirisena operation for last 3.5 years was there's no transparency when it comes to the big business and
Well,
deals.
yes, because he did. The president made reference to that. He said some kind of butterfly club. I call it the flowery club. And I'd rather not the president to say all these things, but I think it's all right for me to say it. It was, whether we like it or not, that little cabinet within the cabinet was where it all happened. And Keerthi, many people have been contacting me to ask us not to forget the bond.
Yes.
Now, Mahinda Rajapaksa was highly critical of the bond scam. So was President Sirisena. In fact, Mr. Sirisena is still critical of it. And so, Keerthi,
They have to deliver.
do you think they'll deliver? Do you
Definitely
think that forensic
they have to
audit will
deliver.
happen?
Definitely they have to deliver. Otherwise, the same criticism will come in within no time. Within 2-3 months.
Do you think that the president should have ordered the arrest of the minister in charge of the central bank at the time?
I think, the investigations will happen. We are not happy. Especially, I think the best investigation done on the bond scam is the investigation done by the Bribery and Corruption Commission at the very beginning. But that investigation did not finish under the various circumstances. There was reporting to the Aegis department has happened, but that has not happened. We know it is not 118 people who got the money. 200 plus people were got the money.
Yeah.
So we know that, and that justice has to be done.
Keerthi Tennakoon, listen, I wanted to say something to you.
Yes, please.
In Thailand, Yingluck Shinawatra did something with the rice, similar to our bond. You
Something
can
like
say
that.
like that. It cost the Thai people $5 billion with a B US dollars, $5 billion. Eventually, she was taken to court. She ran away, but that's a different thing. She got 5-year term. In South Korea, 4 presidents of the country received convictions and jail sentences for corruption. 2 of them got pardons later on because of their age and health and so on. But that's democracy. Do you envisage a system in this country? The bond scam, in terms of, in relevance, if you look at it, it's $5 billion that Shinawatra did in Thailand, and over here it's, you can't compare it in terms of money. But if you compare our GDP, their GDP, and you bring some relevance to it, then it's about the same or more. Do you think there's hope?
The president's allegation on Prime Minister is that he was very soft with the corrupt people of the previous.
Why was that? Was he?
Let me finish this. Is that the same scenario going to happen with the UNP administration is my question. If the present president and the present prime minister going to treat the same way the UN peers who has having the corruption allegations, especially bond issue, Lanka coal company, Horana rubber factory, the Indian housing scheme and all that.
Yeah.
So we can list it everything. That should not happen. The law should prevail on this. The investigation should happen and the people should taken to the courts.
That's all we have time for. Thank you very much, Keerthi Tennakoon.
It's a pleasure.
And on behalf of Team News First and on behalf of the Capital Maharaja organization, let me wish you all a very happy Deepavali, and here's to all the best for everybody in this wonderful, wonderful country, Sri Lanka. One nation, one country. Take care. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.